Tell the jury, what exactly is it that you heard?
It sounded like Amie's voice screaming, like blood-curdling screams.
Could you tell what she was screaming?
It was just loud. It screams. I thought she saw a mouse, literally. Like, as crazy as that sounds, that's like the only time I've heard a girl scream like that.
How you doing today? Here I am in the Hollywood Hills, California, with some beautiful views I'm going to show you. Just you can see all of LA, and it's just gorgeous up here. I've done lots of videos up in the Hollywood Hills, and I love it. I love coming up into the hills and filming and doing some stories. And it's true what they say about the Hollywood Hills is always, when it's at night, it's dark. It's so quiet, you can hear a pin drop. Like, you can hear LA right now, just down there, and it's always quieter at night. You can hear a pin drop, and it's eerie. And Hollywood Hills has some dark stories. So just to show you, just walking down this little street here, just turn, I showed you at the beginning a little bit. Like, right over there is Capitol Records, famous building. There, right by that palm tree in the middle, and the Knickerbocker, famous hotel, famous, the Broadway. There's a whole, everything. Great views from up here. So I'm here today doing a story about a young lady named Amie Harwick. And Amie Harwick was a family and marriage therapist, a sex therapist, a writer, a YouTuber, podcaster. She did it all. And famously, she was engaged to Drew Carey of Price is Right, the Drew Carey Show, stand-up comedian. Amie was murdered just up the street from here, and I brought along somebody who knows a lot about this case. This is David. David's a viewer of mine. He's now become a friend. David knows a lot about this case, and you're going to be starting a YouTube channel at some point.
Yep.
So I don't have a link to put below to your channel yet, but when you get one, we will do that.
Perfect.
All right, I want to talk to you about this case because you do know quite a bit. So David, tell me, we know it was Valentine's Day 2020 in a house just up the street where we're going to walk up to. What happened?
So Amie Harwick's ex-boyfriend, they broke up in 2012. Her boyfriend was waiting for her inside, hopped a neighbor's fence, was there approximately 4 hours between the time he got there and left, according to the ring camera from the neighbor's house. And he was waiting for her inside in her bedroom, and threw her over her balcony of her third-story bedroom.
Right. His name was Gareth
Pursehouse.
Gareth Pursehouse. Now, this guy had, they dated in 2012, lasted about a year, then she filed a restraining order against him, correct? Yes.
Correct.
So it had been 8 years since she had seen him, I guess, or roughly it's 8 years since the breakup. She became engaged to Drew Carey. Where'd she meet Drew Carey?
I believe at a party they met. He went up to her and he, I think he struck up a conversation. She said that her boyfriend had stood her up, not Gareth Pursehouse.
Another boyfriend
had stood her up, and he said something along the lines of, well, you need to get a better type of guy or something like that. And she said, yeah, I agree. And then by the end of the night, they had exchanged numbers.
Nice.
And the first date was at Disneyland.
Oh, nice. And then they did break up in 2018, her and Drew Carey, but it was amicable split. They were still friends, and then I believe right up until it was a week or two, maybe you can inform me, they had been in touch again, Drew, Carey, and Amie.
Yeah, from what I read, she contacted him a couple days before she was actually murdered to kind of talk. Nobody really knows what they were going to talk about, but I know he was still interested in. I think she was too. They actually split up because of the notoriety she was getting. She was afraid of her ex, this Gareth Pursehouse. She was afraid of him, finding her after all this.
Right, and there was whenever there would be posts about her and Drew Carey online, there would be negative comments, and she thought he was behind it.
Yeah, she couldn't prove it, but she thought that he was most likely behind.
So like most relationships when it's involved celebrity, we don't know the real reason why they broke up, but it looks like, they were still friends, but there was some sort of, from what we read and what we watched, some sort of interest between the two still, and they were still close friends, but they were going to get together. Who knows what would have happened.
Right.
So now we're walking up the street. It's a very tight little street where all of this occurred. The house is just up around the bend, and in the middle of we're going to get into exactly what happened, but there was screaming, and you're a native of this area. You know how quiet it gets up here. Like a woman screaming, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it
probably throughout the hills.
Yeah. So she came home from the party. She went. So the last text was sent at what time? 1 o'clock?
I think it was 1 a.m. She had sent a text to her friend asking for a picture that they had taken because they went to a burlesque show and then out to get a drink afterwards in downtown LA. And then that was her last text she ever sent. And they say by the time she got that picture back, she was already, she wasn't
dead,
deceased yet,
right.
But she was already, Gareth had already either started the assault or it was after the assault.
So the official cause of death was blunt force trauma, but also manual strangulation. So he strangled her and then essentially threw her off the third floor of the house. She had a roommate. He was downstairs sleeping on the couch, and he heard her screaming, and then he ran out of the house, correct?
Correct. They said that they think he probably heard Gareth break into the house because he heard glass break. He thought it was just a plate breaking, and then he went back to sleep. But yeah, when he heard the scream, he said he heard bodies hitting the ground, or a body hitting, the ground up above him.
Right.
And then he ran out of the house, and then he was trying to knock on neighbors' doors, and he finally flagged down a car.
Right.
Who let him use the cell phone to call 911.
Yeah, and I'm going to assume that if the car was probably not on this street, or it probably would have been over here on Longview or one of the other bigger Vine is right here, right? Because there's not a lot of traffic on this. Well, here we go. There is a car coming right now, but there's usually not a lot of traffic on this street. It's pretty small. So as we come around the corner, it's the house with the blue trim right there, and Amie was upstairs. So he flagged down. They called the police. Mm-hmm. The police came, but there was kind of a mix-up.
Yeah, her roommate did not have his keys to the house, so they didn't quite believe him. They thought maybe he was the assailant, so he was kind of being questioned for a while.
Right.
And then finally the cops started picking up his story, and then went up to the house, and they were trying to get in since he didn't have keys to the gate or anything.
Right.
So one of the cops had to hop the fence.
Right, hop the fence into the back.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's where he found her.
Right.
So they were hopping. I believe they jumped over the fence, trying to get into the house, not knowing they would find Amie on the floor, on the ground. I should say.
Outside the house. Right.
I don't think they were expecting that.
Yeah, I think the one jumped over and then let the other police officer and then
right.
the roommate in, and then the roommate did say that he could hear Amie moaning, and that it didn't look good.
There's a lot of, and I believe there's body cam footage, yes, of the police arriving. And the roommate in the background. We'll just call him the roommate, but he does have a name, of course. But yeah, let's walk around here.
She was thrown to the ground. I couldn't find my phone. I couldn't find anything.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, so you have access to here?
No.
Is there anybody else inside the house?
My roommate.
Just your roommate by yourself?
Yes. You check on her? Dude, I heard screaming. I don't know if that guy had a gun or a knife. I came running trying to... I couldn't find my phone or
So is there
anything.
somebody else inside?
Yes.
How long ago did you last hear from her? We're at the door right here. Can you hold this? Can you wait a second? I'm waiting for my partner. You need to calm down. Yeah. Sir, come here. Come here. Relax. Take a seat. Take a seat.
So this house right here, David, with the fence, was the Ring camera. There was a Ring camera out front, and it shows him breaking in or hopping the fence, I guess, to the house next door.
Correct. Yeah, there's a Ring camera which they showed in court of Gareth actually using this neighbor's house to actually hop over, and
Right.
then when he was done, he hopped back over.
And he
then-
covered up the camera.
Right, he covered.
He
up
noticed
the
it.
camera. Yep, he noticed it, but he covered up the camera. I mean, obviously, I think on his way out, he didn't cover up the camera, but you can clearly see who it was.
And he was obviously a jealous, he's a stalker, he's a crazy ex-boyfriend. They had run into each other just recently, right?
Right.
We didn't talk about this.
So about a month and a half before, or maybe about a month in January, she was at a adult expo, I believe, at the JW Marriott at LA Live, and she ran into Gareth, who was he had many titles. He was a wannabe comedian, photographer, computer designer, or software engineer,
Sure.
I should say.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all
Yeah.
trades. But he was working as a photographer that night, and they ran into each other, and he actually was screaming at her, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" And she went into therapist mode, and was trying to calm him down, was talking to him, and they're thinking maybe that kind of is what set off,
Right. And he was
Next
quoting to her texts from 8 years ago that she had sent him. So he memorized text. So he was and that just set him off,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
He began stalking her within the month, and then finally broke in and waited for her with a specific goal to murder her. So we're here, and what happened next? I mean, he got away.
He did get away. And then as her roommate was, her roommate finally flagged down a car, like we said, and he called 911. The police officers thought maybe he was the assailant because he didn't have keys to the house or keys to the gate. And then he was acting kind of crazy.
He's upset. Yeah.
He's upset.
But Gareth got away.
He did get away. Yeah. He actually, I don't know how long afterwards, but he did, was picked up at his house.
Right. Yeah, 18 hours later.
Right.
18 hours later. And he just, was it September of last year?
September he was found guilty, and then December of 2023 is when he got life in prison.
Life in prison. Do we know what prison he's in now? I wonder where he is. We were talking about, when you and I met, we were talking about some of the bigger prisons where people like this go to. I mean, he also had Tell me about the needle.
Oh, so they did find a needle on her balcony. He left behind a needle. It was full of liquid nicotine. At first, the police thought it was heroin.
Right.
But after testing, they found out it was liquid nicotine. So
Right.
that might have been his plan too, is to shoot her up with liquid nicotine, a lethal amount of.
And when they searched his house, they found a similar one, right?
Yes, they
Yeah.
did.
So one thing that I read, he was charged with murder, but also with the special circumstance of lying in wait, which you don't really hear too often, but lying in wait. So that's essentially preying, like, preying on your PREY, on your victim. He was waiting to do it. So it's a first-degree murder charge, and special circumstance of burglary and home breaking and entering. So when I saw burglary, I was wondering, do you know what did he take something of hers?
Right.
We don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know. Here's the house here. Now there is a different location because where she actually fell is in the back of the house, correct?
Correct.
But we know a place where we can go to get a shot of that, where we're going to show that, because it's impossible with all the trees and bushes out in front. Terrible story. Terrible. And, young, full of life, beautiful, smart, talented, and this dirtbag. Unbelievable. All right, so we made it up to about 3 blocks away. We're really high up in the hills, and we have to show the back of the house and the balcony that she fell off of. And it's very, very lot of trees in the backyard, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard, but she was found on the ground 3 stories below. Through here. Oh wow. So it's very difficult to see, but that is the back of the house right there. And in the center of your screen, right there, that is the balcony that sadly Amie was thrown from. So it is pretty high up. Doesn't look it from the outside really, right, David? Like when you're standing outside the front of the house, but from here that looks high up.
Yeah.
Because these houses, we should say, a lot of them are obviously they're built on a hill,
Right.
but they're actually built so it looks, don't realize how high these houses actually go up.
Yeah, I think the fall was 20 feet, and
20
it was a
feet.
3rd story. So I think we only, from the front of the house, you can only see the first 2.
Right.
The 2nd and 3rd level. The first level's
Right.
on the side of the hill.
And there it is, right there. Right there, straight ahead is a different angle. It's the back of the house right there. And that's the balcony. So I think one thing we should add is the police said that she fought for her life. Amie fought hard, but he overpowered her. One of her friends was questioned by the police later that day, and that's what led them to Gareth, because they said that Amie was physically abused by this guy. Two restraining orders. Now in the trial, I was reading some of the defense said that he went there with no intention of killing her, but he was going to kill himself. Sure. The defense has to say what the defense has to say. Well, what did you, Carey, have to say about it?
Yeah, he said, Amie and I had a love that people are lucky to have once in a lifetime.
Yeah, so I have a feeling, I have no clue. I don't know either. I did not know her, and I don't know. It just seems like maybe they were going to maybe get back together. They seem to really be in love. Tragedy all around. David, thank you for coming along, man. Appreciate it.
Scott.
Rest in peace, Amie. Rot in prison, Gareth Pursehouse. Stalker, lying in wait, and he's obviously very, very messed up in the head. But that's a brutal killing, strangulation, throwing someone off of a balcony. So rest in peace, Amie. She's buried out in Pennsylvania.
Correct.
Where she's from. We all go back to where we belong. Okay, thank you. Rest in peace, Amie. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace. Out.